Hey there, thanks for stopping by my channel to color. Today we're going to be coloring this adorable Whimsy Stamps image called Follow Me. Isn't he cute? I love him. This would be perfect for a just thinking of you, just because Easter's coming up, so maybe an Easter card. There's no reason why you couldn't put Happy Easter down here if you have that kind of sentiment. But I'll go ahead and put this card kit down in the description box and along with all the supplies I used in case you would like to do some shopping. I really appreciate you buying a card kit and supporting my channel. So I went ahead and I stamped my image on some Neenah 80-pound solar white cardstock. So let's color. So for today's coloring, we're going to go ahead and use a bunch of different colors, and I'm going to go ahead and put up a card here that shows you what colors we're going to use, but I will also show you each color family when I change colors on my coloring. All right, let's go ahead and do our background with BG 000, quadruple 0, and our colorless blender. I'm going to start out with BG 000, and I'm just going to flick away from my boy. I'm setting my arm down on the table, and then I'm just letting my hand go as far out as it will go comfortably without moving my wrist off of the table. And I'm going to do this all the way around my little guy and all the little chicks. He's got a little spot right here between his pants, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then let's go ahead and do the same thing over here around our little chickens. Make sure to get in between all this area in here. I like to do it first so that if I get any on my images, I can erase it if I feel like it. Most of the time I don't, but in case I get some on there, I can erase it. And also, if I do this first, then I don't run the risk of dragging any of my colors I already colored out into my background. And we're going to do the same thing up here around our little guy. And connect it down here where we started. Easy peasy. Next we're going to add BG quadruple 0. So we're just going to do the same exact thing. So let's go ahead and start over here, and I'm just going to set my hand down on the counter, and I'm going to flick out as far as my hand will go without picking my hand up. And I'm just kind of sliding my hand as I go up, further up on the table. I didn't pick it up off the table, but I'm just moving it up so my hand can go with the little guy here. Same thing down here, clear down to the grass. It's very easy, right? And then what you do is you take your colorless blender, and this will work best if your colorless blender is got some ink in there. And so I just take it and I make some big circles. I'm just going along, putting them in various places. And two, it helps that you didn't color your little person, so you can just go ahead and do like half a circle right here so it goes off of his head. And this helps too. You can hit some of those places if you've got some on your image that you can just quickly erase it. So I went clear around and can kind of see the shadow of some of those little dots. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to put some dots in a little bit different places. I'm going to make them a little bit smaller this time and fill in some of those spaces where there wasn't a dot. If you touch some other dots, no big deal. Just continue on. I'm not being neat or tidy. I'm just making some splashes. Okay, after I got those, got quite a few. Can you see? Hopefully you can see them a little bit on there. And then I go back and I just make some random dots. So I'm going to do it quicker. I'm just going to go dot, dot, dot. And if you want them to be, mine are kind of oblong shaped. If you want it to be rounder, just tip your pin up more on the end so that just the tip of the pin hits. But I don't care about that. I'm just going to make some random dots. Different sizes. The longer you hold your pen on the paper, the more ink will spill out of your pen onto the paper, so the bigger the dots will be. So the faster you go, the smaller your dots are going to be. come back, maybe add some more over here. And this is just a quick, easy way to get some interesting backgrounds without having to worry about all those little splotches and stuff on there, or lines. Just moves your ink around by itself. Okay, and then you let it dry and you have an interesting background. Let's go ahead and do some grass next. For that, we'll use E43, G94, YG93, and YG21. So I'm going to start with my E43, and I'm going to just add some little splotches of color. So let's kind of use our brown underneath where the little chick's feet are kind of at. And I'm not getting right particularly close to the little feet. I just want to add a little bit of color down, kind of like a shadow. But then I'm also going to go out here and I'm going to bring a little bit of this color out into this way. And I'm just randomly letting my pen touch the paper and making some little lines. Fairly easy, right? Next we'll come in with our G94. Same thing. I'm just going to put this green in a little bit different spot than where I put the previous brown. So I'm kind of hitting in between those spots. And then again down here we'll put some random streaks in. Maybe go out past our chickens a little bit. Next, we're going to add YG93. Same thing, just add a little bit more. I've got a few white spaces, so I'm going to fill some of those in. Try not to color his little feet green, but if you do, it's no big deal. We'll just erase that. And then we're going to go over the entire thing with our YG21. So I just swipe clear up here next to the little chick's foot, go around it, and this will help soften all those colors together and make a kind of a big squishy line. And then we'll fill in down here. Then I like to come back with my brown, so E43. And then I'm going to add a little bit of my G94 back in. And then there's some little pieces of grass, so I'm going to go ahead and do some little flicks, maybe in between some of the space over here. Here's a couple down in here, and here's some over here by his foot. Add a few down in here just randomly. And then I'm going to add some YG93, also from some little pieces of grass. Let's go ahead and do our chicks next. For that we'll use Y26, 23, 21, and for their feet and beaks we'll use YR14 and 12. So I'm going to start with my Y26, and we're going to add that wherever we want to have some shadows. So let's go a little bit down here on his little wings, and then we're going to do down here along the bottom of his body, and I'm going to come up and a little dab right next to his face. Same over here. Let's go around his little beak, and then we're going to come around the bottom of this one's body, add a little bit to these wings. This little guy will do the same thing for him, along his body, and then a little bit on his wing. I wasn't being very neat, was I? Next we'll add Y23, and I'll probably end up giving him a second coat, so I'm not worried if the lines don't blend as good the first time. I'm just going to come in and soften that edge, bring a little bit of color into my chicken here, I'm just making sure that I touch down on my previous color so that it will soften that edge a little bit. Next we'll add Y21. And you notice I didn't fill it all the way in because when we come back and add our second coat, when we fill in over there, it will be lighter. Next, we're going to add a second coat of Y26. And I'm just going to go over where I laid it down the first time. No big deal. And then we'll go with Y23. I'm going to bring this up underneath of his wing there. And then come right out to where I stopped with my previous colors. Swipe right over the top of that wing. Same for this little guy, right over the top of it. And then we'll finish him up with our Y21. And I'm just going to fill it all the way in. And then I tend to go over it by going over the entire little guy. So swipe over this and then go over all these other colors. Let's go ahead and add our YR14 for our feet and our beak. So I'm going to use a little bit along the bottom here, and then this part of his foot is underneath of him, so I'm going to cover that up. And then I'm going to do a little bit on this one. This one's completely under his body, so I'm going to fill this one all the way in. And this one's got a little bit peeking out, so I'm going to leave a little bit down there in the end to get some light. This one is completely under his body, so I filled it all the way in. And this one I'll leave a little dab of white at the ends. Then we'll do the bottom of his beak on this one, and this one, and this one. And then we're going to fill in the rest with our YR12. Then I come back with my YR14 and just darken that up for a second coat. Let's do the little guy's skin next. For that, we'll use E21, E00, E000, E51. For his cheeks, we're going to use R32 and 30. So I'm going to start with my E21. And I'm going to do a little dab along his sleeve and then along the bottom of his finger. Same for this side, we'll go underneath of his sleeve and then a little dab on each of these little fingers here. I'm trying to be very sparing. Then we'll go along under his chin and next to his coat jacket there. And then up here, we're going to go right next to his hairline. And then I'm going to do the inside of his ear and right along his jaw. Underneath of his hair over here, around, and pull this around to his chin. And then he's got his lip right there that's got a little shadow. So I'm just going to give that a little color. And then I'm going to give him a little spot for his nose. Next, we're going to add E00. So I'm going to go ahead and swipe over this hand. I'm just going to go ahead and fill it the rest of the way in because there's not much there left. And we're going to give it a second coat, so don't worry that it's still looking a little liney. This side, we're going to fill it into his nose. We're going to go over his lip. And then we'll add E000 to his face. It's just got a little bit left there, so I'm just going to swipe over the entire thing. And maybe a little bit on his ear right there. Okay, and before we add our second coat, I'm going to add some cheek colors. So I'm going to go with R32 first. And I'm going to go, he's got it comes down and kind of bumps back out for his cheek right here. I'm going to go with that as my starting point. And then over here, I like to do my circle, so I touch down in the middle of my circle, and then I go out this way to the right, and then I come back in the same spot in the middle to the left. So all my ink ends up darker in the middle instead of out on the outsides. Next we'll go with R30 to soften the edge. Then we're going to come back with our second coat of E21. And I'm going to do his entire stuff. So we're going to go on his hands, neck, face, and get that little spot for his nose. And we'll add a second coat of E00. Then our E000. And for this color, I just go over his entire face. He's got a little line on his neck there, so I'm just going to go ahead and sweep over that and his hand. And then, because I'm liking how the E51 adds a little bit of yellow to it, I'm going to go ahead and use that to go over it one more time. I'm going to grab my E32 or my R32 again, and I'm going to darken up this cheek over here just a little bit, maybe a little bit for this one, and then I'm going to do his little bottom lip. Let's go ahead and do his hair next. For that, you use Y21, E74, E44, and E47. I'm going to start with my Y21. And I'm just going to make some little lines. So let's go up here, and his hair's kind of going in different directions, so kind of keep your lines going in the direction the hair is going. Turn my little guy here a little bit. And then in here it kind of goes this way, and then it kind of switches over and kind of goes curves around here like this. And maybe a couple of small little slashes here in my little spaces. Then I'm going to add E74 to that. So same thing, I'm just going to go with some little lines in the direction that my hair is going. Then we'll do the same thing for E44. And his hair is kind of tipped down on the side right here, so I'm going to darken it up here a little bit more on this edge. And then our darkest color is E47, so we're going to add that. I'm going to keep that contained more up here towards where his roots are at. And then let's add a few over here. Remember where we got mostly shadow, where his head's tipped, so I'm going to add some over there. And then just because, I'm going to add a couple of smaller sections right in here, just so it doesn't look weird that it's all contained to the bottom of the top. Same for over here. And I think I will come back and maybe add a little bit more. No, not that. Let's do E44. And same thing, I'm just going to add a few little lines in here in some of these spaces because it's looking a little, I'm not liking it. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of this color in here. For his wings, we're going to use V01, V000, and then R00. So I'm going to start with my V01. I'm going to do that right next to his body, and then I'm going to kind of come out a little bit, and then I'm going to bring this line along this little line that's already drawn on there. Same for this side, go right from his body, go down this little line, and then he's got a couple of little bubble spots. I'm going to fill those in right here. And we'll add V000 to that. And I'm trying to go right over the edge of that line. And we'll drag this out a little bit more. And then we'll add R00 to that. And I'm not going clear to the end or filling it clear to the top. I'm just adding some of this pink right over the top. You can fill them all the way in if you want. I just prefer to have a little bit of white at the ends. And then I'm going to go back with my V01 and add that back on there. So his pants are next. Let's do B99, 97, 95, and 93. I'm going to start with B99. I'm going to do right here in this little crease he's got where his leg is bent first. And then I'm going to do a little dab along the back of his leg. And I'm going to give this 2 coats, so I'm not worried about any of that other stuff. We're just going to do a little line down the side. So we'll come back and make it a little thicker later. Next we'll add B97. So we're just going to soften that edge. Again, I'm not being too tidy. I'm just flicking along that edge of that line, softening it up a little bit. But this time around, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a little color, a line on this side of this pants. He's got a little line right here, so I'm just going down the top of that line. This one has a little dot, so on the dot side. Next, we're going to soften that with 95. And then we'll soften that with 93. It's not looking that fabulous, so if yours doesn't look fabulous, neither does mine. And we're going to come back with a second coat of our B99. Line a little bit thicker this time, so I'm going to touch down on that line I made before. I'm going to bring it out past that, make it a little bit whiter, kind of I guess where my 97 was. And then we'll add 97. I'm going to fill this little section right here in. And I'm going to bring this out to where I had my 95 the last time. bring this out to the edge of that 93. Same for this side. And this one, I'll bring it right up to that patch on his jeans. Then I'm going to add 95 to that. So I'm going to fill in this line back here on the back of his jeans. And this line. And up here, I'm going to bring it pretty close to the front. So we're just going to have a little bit left for that 93. I still got a little bit of a line right here on the front, so I'm going to go ahead and swipe from the back of the little line on his jeans. I'm going to bring that back up to the front. Just another little quick little stroke right over the top of all that. Okay, we'll go with that for a minute. And then lastly, we'll fill it in with our 93. And then this time, I'm going to go ahead and just go over the entire pants. So just swiping from the back to the front. Same for this leg, back to the front. And then if you still got a little bit of line, I still got a little bit of a line there. I'm going to go ahead and take my 95 again. And I'm going to go from this little seam in his jeans. And we're going to swipe right back up where we were. And I got a little bit on my patch there, but I'm not worried about that because we're going to color that reddish black. So we'll cover that up. So don't worry if you got some on yours. And then we'll go over that with our 93. And just give it a quick brush. For a sweater, we're going to use our 27, 17, 14, 22, and W5. So I'm going to start with W5, and for our W5, I'm going to go along the back of this arm, and then I'm going to go in this little crease right here for his arm, down the back of his sweater, and then he's got a little wrinkle right here that I'm going to fill in. And then we're going to do the same thing over here on this crease. Oh, let's do, while we got this out, let's go ahead and do this pocket right here too. Next, we're going to do R27. So for our R27, we're going to go right over W5. And I'm going to extend it out a little bit. So we want to go past and over the top of it just a little bit. Same thing for our sweater sleeve. So we're going to go right over that line. I'm going to go ahead and just draw right over the top of it so I have something to go off of. So I'm afraid I'm going to go out of the lines. So for me, it's easier to put that line down and then pull off of that. We don't want to go out of the lines this end of the game here. Okay, and then we're also going to use this color to start our pocket down here. And we're also going to do the same thing on this pants cuff. I probably should have put, let's get our W5 one more time. Sorry about that. I'm going to do a little line right along the edge of those. And since I'm going to add a second coat, it'll be fine that I just added it right now. Okay, then we'll do R17 next. So we're going to go, I'm going to come up here past this lace. I'm going to try not to color that lace because I'm going to leave those white. Okay, now this sleeve, we are going to come out quite a ways. Let's go ahead and bring it out with this section right here. And then we'll go with R14. Be careful these laces. Remember, we're going to try to leave those white. If you go over them, though, it'd be okay. You can just go over them with your Jelly Roll pen or your Sharpie white paint pen and just paint them white again. Or they could be red. Or you can make them black. Okay, then we're going to go with R22. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the rest of this. Whoops, there's a little spot right here. Okay, so we're going to go in with our second coat on our sweater. So I'm going to go with R27. R17. Got a little bit on his waistcoat, on the sash there, but it's not going to matter because we're going to color that black. We'll do R14 next. And then our R22 to fill it the rest of the way in. Okay, and I'm going to take my W5 for these cuffs. You can leave them red, but I thought they were a little too red, so I'm going to go ahead and take my W5 and I'm just going to swipe right over the top of this cuff. Dirty it up a little bit. All right, let's finish it up with our black. So we're going to use W9, W7, W5, and W2. I'm going to start with W9. And let's do a little bit on his shoe. He's got his little cuffs, waistband, and then his hood over here. We're going to do right down close to his neck and that little seam. Same for this side. Let's do right next to his neck and that little seam, and then a little bit in this little spot that looks like it's inside of his coat. And here's a little seam. And then we'll add W7. And we're going to fill that in with W5. And this is where if you got his little ties on his shirt colored and you don't like them that color, you could go over it with your one of your black markers and color that in. I'm going to finish off the sole with W2. So I'm not going to fill it all the way in. I'm just going to go on this shoe right next to his pants, and then I'm going to brush it up about 3/4 of the way, and then I'll leave the tip white. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to go about 3/4 of the way and then just leave this end section white. And that's it for our coloring. Let's go ahead and grab all of our stuff and we'll put our card together. All right, so I have all my stuff ready and we're gonna go ahead and put our card together. So let's go ahead, I have some sequins here, so I'm gonna just move those over to the side. And you do get a little package of those so you can pick which colors you want. So I start out by checking to make sure that my card is opening the direction I want it to go. Otherwise I'll put it on there the wrong way. And then we're just going to, let's go ahead and attach this dotty piece to this craft cardstock. Or if you like, you can use the cards that are on the back. This is some older My Mind's Eye Boy Crazy paper. Okay, I'm just going to attach this. And let's go ahead and attach this to our card base. And we got all these little parts. So let's go ahead and stick these flowers over here on the side for a minute. And our sentiment. So what I think I'll do first is I will attach these light blue aqua pieces to my darker blue pieces. And when I cut them out, they've got a little bits of fuzz still attached to them, so you might want to take your hand and just run it across the front here or whatever, a fingernail, and remove those if you don't want them on there, because there's quite a few. I don't know what the deal is. Same with this one. This one's got quite a few little spots still hanging on there, so just kind of scrape those off or whatever you want to do. Otherwise later when you're attaching it, they're just going to be stuck on there. Little loose bits. But yeah, look at all that stuff that fell off of there. Do that to this one here real quick too. Okay, let's see if I can blow some of that off without blowing everything on the cardstock everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this and I'm going to attach this to that. So I think what I'll do is I will just run a little bit of tape runner along the line go ahead and hold this up here. And do this. And I'm going to kind of make it so it goes up to these the little scallops where they swoop down. We'll just smooth that on. And we'll do the same thing for this one. Remove some of those little things that are hanging off. And again, I'm going to the end of the scallops. Just smooth that on. Okay, and then what I want to do is I want to attach my guy here to this. So I'm going to go ahead and put some tape runner on the back of this. And then I put it down a little bit from the little line on our little light blue piece. Oops. This side's hanging off just a little bit. Okay, and we'll do the same thing for this side. I made it 2 pieces because when I was cutting it out, I couldn't get the scalloped one to be straight across the whole piece, so I decided it'd just be easier to cut them separate and then attach them to the back of the piece. This. Okay, and then you can take your scissors and you can trim this. Let me see if I have a pair of scissors. I don't know if I brought a pair in here. All right, so I went ahead and just went and used my chopper to trim that off of there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to attach this to your piece of cardstock on the base. You could put, if you're worried about not laying flat, you could put a piece of cardstock right here in this middle section, and then you wouldn't have to worry about that. Okay, make sure my cards go in the right direction. And I'm going to leave it so I have more of the pattern paper at the top of the card than at the bottom. You can do it however you want. And I'm just going to smooth that down. Like that. And then we have a bunch of flowers. Or a couple of flowers. So let's go ahead and attach these little parts. That I think I'll just use some liquid glue. This one. And then this one, I'm going to kind of put it up. I'm not going to put it in the middle of the flower. I'm going to move it up towards the top of the flower so that it will show when I stick it onto my paper or underneath of the other flower. And let's go ahead and and I'm making sure that my off-center flower part is up here at the top, and let's go with him about right here. And we'll attach this one. But if you offset that center part, then it shows more on this back flower. Then we'll do their leaves. I'm just going to tuck this one behind here. And we'll tuck this one behind this one. And I'm glad now that I didn't let it dry, because you can kind of move it around. If you use liquid glue, you can move those leaves around a little bit. Okay, and then for our little cinnamon here, the cinnamon is from the alt new Thinking of You cinnamon set. And this, we're going to put this down here. And I'm going to put it above my little scallop piece and kind of hanging off the edge. And then we'll add our sequins. I'm just going to give it some drops of glue here. And we'll get our sequins. And then I got this handy dandy little picker-upper thing. So you just pick some up and you stick it on there. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for our coloring today. I hope you had fun coloring and putting our card together. If you have a question, make sure and leave me a comment down below and I will make sure to get back to you. Don't forget that I'll go ahead and put a list of all the supplies I use down in the description box in case you would like to go shopping and pick something up. I really appreciate you supporting my channel by doing some shopping in my online store. If you'd like to see more details and close-up photos of the card, head over to the store blog. And if you've made it this far, make sure if you enjoyed the video, you hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do that. Hit the little bell next to it so you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Right about now, you'll be seeing a couple of videos I thought you might be interested in. If you're interested in either of those, go ahead and click one and you will be able to go and see all about that new video. Anyway, I hope you're having a fabulous week and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.